We're live from the Beach Street Yacht Club yet again on this Good Friday, April 18th. If you're celebrating the Holy Week, the Holy Weekend, maybe you have a day off on Good Friday. Julia, we are in blue. We look like the Bobbsey twins here today.
I know.
I trust you're well.
I am.
Happy Easter. Happy Good Friday.
And same to you.
And to everybody else, I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Julia Vatican, of course, is my co-host and the landlady here, but more importantly, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club. And we've got a great show today for you. You saw our cover slide about whether we're losing our marbles or not. That's a double entendre, but we'll get into that as we look to see Greg Phillips and Ed Worley and Stingray, who is sleepless in Seattle on a gorgeous day, he says up there. We have a new segment, Julia, from Stingray.
Oh, good.
An SSSS.
Okay.
Mark Wharton reads in Hudsonville. I assume that means Michigan. Clay Embley's down in the wheelhouse in, I believe, Kentucky. Alan Long in Lago Vista, where it's hot in Texas. Mark Holland has made it to Friday in Boston. John Emmett. Hello, Fozy. John Emmett, of course, with his usual report. Blake Middleton up in Minnesota. And Peter Taylor in New York City, and many others beyond. Welcome, everybody, to our show number 825. It's actually 826. That graphic is wrong, Julia. The graphic department
to the graphic
screwed
department.
up yet again.
I know.
Happy Friday, happy world. Have we lost our somethings day, believe it or not? And happy and blessed Holy Week and weekend. Thanks for all your kind and disgusted comments after Tuesday's exclusive reveal of Grant Dalton's putrid protocol. And we'll talk some more about that on today's show. Also, AC-38, more on that protocol and on the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, who I submit, are shirking their trustee duties in a way that make them arguably the worst America's Cup trustee in the history of our beloved sport. Friday, FUs. Julia, what do you think the FU stands for?
Follow-ups.
Yes, well done. That's what Stingray and some of the other people with dirty minds would think. Richard Gladwell's ACAI graphics, we're going to talk about that. And the LA 28 sailing venue merry-go-round, we'll cover that. That's still up in the air a little bit.
Is it?
And a new SSSS segment, Stingray Sleepless in Seattle, Sleuthing.
Aha.
It's cool, Julia. Wait till you see it. Really pleased with this new segment, and we're talking about the Sail GP shipment from Sydney. That's talking about more alliteration. That was not on purpose, that Stingray has been sleuthing for us. Coaching Corner, John Emmett's usual report. He's at GBR celebrated Castle Cove Sailing Club this weekend for their first regatta of the new year, the spring season. AC-38, the madness continues. More TFE1 here's coming true, sadly, in addition to those that we've been telling you over the last few weeks. Sail GP's filling the Rio gap with an incomplete Season 6 schedule, which they have released. And apparently, Russell's talking about 2 more teams next year, a total of 14 teams. They're going to split the fleet into 2 fleets of 7 when they're racing the fleet race segments of Sail GP. So they won't all be racing together as one group of 14, one fleet of 14, which would be pretty tough in some of those confined venues.
Absolutely.
And an AAAA, Australian Sailing, is not losing their marbles. And are they, and should they be, the model for the rest of us? That from Alistair Murray, of course. And then the last leg will feature the upcoming 52 Super Series, which starts in another 10 days. And they're another bright spot in our beloved sport. So not everybody, Julia, is losing their marbles. Plus Day in History, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and our fantastic Fozy, and much
all day.
Much more.
Yes.
This is the AI I was telling you about. Richard Gladwell, we told you in the previous show or two about his figuring out how to use Chat GPT to produce these graphics. And he's trying to teach me how to do it. He said, I just said, give me an image with the America's Cup with wings on it in front of the Sky Tower in Auckland. And it was a few tries and a few massages that produced that graphic. Then he asked for similar with Mr. Dalton and Mr. Burling with the cup with the wings on it in front of the Sky Tower. And this graphic has been produced. And he kindly sent them on to me. And then this one, you can imagine who that is. Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos Britannia at the wheel, thinking about the Cup and the old Cup. That's the original version of the America's Cup. All these AI graphics produced by Richard Gladwell of New Zealand, our super Fozy, and the New Zealand editor of sail-world.com. Thank you, Richard, for all of those.
They're well done.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah. Made me think I have to play with that for a while, too.
I knew you would. The techno nerd that you are, Ms. Vedekin. And I think that this story is getting a little long in the tooth. If the next venue for the Olympics, for the 2028 Olympics, is anywhere other than Long Beach, we got a big problem on our hands. And this is still apparently up in the air. Some of you think it's not a done deal. I happen to think, Julia, that it is a done deal. That the venue is going to be in Long Beach, but there is still
sailing.
For sailing. The city councilman is still apparently causing problems up there, trying to get it into his district in San Pedro. Not San Pedro, but LA.
Hasn't anybody explained the problem?
Yeah, we're about to. Julia, you'd think poorly of me if I wasn't about to explain the problem. As we told you on Tuesday's show, LA 28 has announced Dodger Stadium, among a bunch of other new 2028 Olympic venues, lineup nearly complete, and did almost all of the venues, including the Long Beach venues. That is Long Beach, California, where they will be used for marathon swimming and sailing events and many other things, according to the LA Times. So you've got the LA 28 organization, the LA Times, the city of Long Beach, everybody reporting that it's a done deal with sailing there. But World Sailing is, for some reason, World Sailing is some reason a little bunched up about this, and we're going to see why. But this is the official list of sports, of events, of disciplines that will be in Long Beach, including artistic swimming, beach volleyball, canoe, sprint, coastal rowing, marathon swimming, shooting, sport climbing, water polo, rowing, handball, and sailing at the Belmont Shore, where it was in 1932 and 1984. And they were fantastic events when the regular main Olympics, I should say, were in Los Angeles. So huzzah for that. Let's hope that's going to happen. And here is yet another media report from NBC's Channel 4 up in L.A., or down here from us in L.A., up from Long Beach, reporting on the situation.
16 new venues, and the city of Long Beach is shaping up to be a big player for the games. 4 more sports unveiled just today for that city.
That includes beach volleyball. McCullough Medina live at Alamitos Beach to tell us why the LBC is so totally stoked. Mac.
Well, come on. It has great history, right? Snoop Dogg, a lot of great celebrities and a lot of great athletes came from Long Beach, but now it's going to have 11 events for LA 28. Alamitos Beach is certainly one of them. Not only beach volleyball here, but also swimming. I want to show you what it looks like from up above to give you a better indication of why we love the LBC so much. This is essentially the beginning of Long Beach's 9 miles of beaches. As I mentioned, 2 of the 11 sports in Long Beach for the Olympics will be hosted here, and that is energizing the city.
I'm excited.
It is Long Beach fever along the Alamitos Beach waterfront.
It's an exciting time for Long Beach.
Exciting for sure. These sandy beaches will soon be transformed into the venue for not 1 but 2 Olympic sports come LA 28, swimming and the iconic Southern California sport of beach volleyball.
I live just a mile away, so it's pretty nice.
For hundreds of thousands that live in Long Beach, additional sports will make the games a backyard event. Beach volleyball, coastal rowing, target shooting, and sports climbing are added to 7 sports already announced to take place in Long Beach for LA 28, making the city the second largest hub for events outside the city of LA. The city of Long Beach says the accessibility to transit made it a darling for the LA 28 organizers and is a big part of the reasons why so many sports will be played right here.
I can see it's easier, but I can see it's nicer. Like, there's a lot of community down here, togetherness and family.
For brother and sister Nathan and Alexis, they're stoked to see the sport they're just learning will be in their backyard.
I think it's like really cool that they chose for it to be in Long Beach.
Yeah. I'm definitely excited to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of folks are going to be definitely excited to walk to any of the events held here in Long Beach. County Commissioner Hahn just announced that why not create a taxi, a water taxi from San Pedro to Long Beach to help facilitate a lot of people coming down from Los Angeles if they don't want to use Metro to get to Long Beach. That is certainly an idea. By the way, the city of Long Beach has been implementing Elevate 28. They are making sure roads and sidewalks and everything looks nice for all the crowds they're expecting here in just over 3 years. We're live in Long Beach. I'm McCallum Medina, NBC 4 News.
What a great report about Long Beach as a city hosting all these events. It's the perfect place. And then run a water taxi down from San Pedro so that people from the Angelinos up there, if they want to come down on the water to enjoy all the sports in Long Beach, they can. And yeah, you wonder why this guy is wearing a hockey jersey. He's a bit of a, I don't know the LA media very well, but I've seen him before reporting for NBC. In fact, for NBC.
He was introduced.
Well, the NBC network, he also gets, he's with a local channel, with Channel 4 LA. But that's also indicative of how, when you get the host broadcaster, which is NBC, running stories about where the venue is, they're not going to run stories about Long Beach and sailing in Long Beach, et cetera, if they're not almost certain that's where it's going to be. And I think everybody is certain. However, there are some, including our own John Emmett, who keeps talking to the gang at World Sailing in London, and they keep saying, well, it ain't over till it's over, and they think there's still some LA City Council action, Julia, from that Croutonic council member who's trying to put it in his district by the prison, the Terminal Island Prison, and the Port of LA, and you don't want to see it there, do we?
No, and even he should know better than that.
He should. I mean, it's just, look, I love that video because this is a fabulous city, fabulous place for our beloved sport. And to that end, one of our super Fozy has written this letter to a whole lot of senior serious people. Long Beach was chosen over San Pedro as the Olympic sailing venue for the Los Angeles Games after an exhaustive review from the head coach of U.S. Sailing, then executive director of U.S. Sailing, representatives of the U.S. Sailing Board, representatives of World Sailing, including the then Vice President Gary Jobson, the head of LA 24-28 venues, Doug Arnault, and his chief venue architect, and finally, representatives of the IOC. All were toured through both venues equally. They unanimously chose Long Beach. Now, a new Los Angeles County supervisor representing San Pedro is challenging the previous decision. I'm writing you hoping you might contact Mr. Graham, David Graham, who's the CEO at World Sailing, and express support for Long Beach. Thank you. And guess, Julia, who wrote that? Our super Fozy, John Sangmeister.
Yes.
And he sent it to a lot of people, senior serious people. And we're going to join in on his good initiative here to write Mr. Graham, David Graham, and tell him what we all think. And if you think it should be in San Pedro, well, go ahead and write that. Do it. Go ahead and tell him. Long Beach is correct. And that's how I'll start my letter out to David. I'm texting him, actually. I got his phone number. I'm going to text him. San Pedro is Croutonic. Ping the World Sailing CEO, david.graham@sailing.org, and tell him what you think. And tell him that it is the best venue for the sport is, in fact, Long Beach, and San Pedro is Croutonic.
Yes.
Julia.
Do we know if David Graham's actually seen Long Beach?
I don't believe he has, but I don't know, and I don't really care. Yes. I'm sure he's had lots of reports from people saying what a great venue it is, and he's going to get a lot more if our Fozy will write to David and tell him what you think. And if you think it ought to be somewhere else, fine. Would Charlie Enright have a voice in this decision? Not likely, but I'm sure even Charlie, he would agree, and I'm sure Charlie will wade into this as the new CEO of U.S. Sailing. Gordon Smith, the county supervisor, is not a non-sailing and soon-to-be reelected supervisor, is he by any chance? I think Gordon Smith, I don't know the status. I do not know the status of his term up there on the city council representing the San Pedro area. But regardless, this whole thing is a simple decision. Keep it the way it is. Keep it the way it is. Okay, Julia, since our last show, too, we want to give you an update on the ship taking Sail GP
I've been watching it.
Well, you've been watching it on Maritime Traffic, right? Because
Right.
your late great husband, of course, the ship captain for Hamburg Süd.
Right.
So I know you've been watching it, but so too has Stingray, which leads us to our new
A
segment.
new Stingray.
A new segment with Sailing Illustrated Blue on it. It's called the SSSS, with deference to Alistair's AAAA, and we're calling this Stingray's Sleepless in Seattle Sleuthing.
He's good at it, too.
And he is good at it. He's been doing this for me and for the America's Cup for years and years. And here is his report that he put together for me this morning, or we put together. The ship UML Victoria, Stingray long since sussed out that it is carrying the SGP, the Sail GP containers from Sydney, and it went through the canal. And this photo courtesy of Duarte Lorenco. I'm not sure where Mr. Lorenco is from, but that's a Maritime Traffic photo, Julia, of the UML Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
That Alan Long is asking, I don't want to forget this. Alan, I'm going to go back to it. It's david.graham@sailing.org, is it? But somebody put it in the chat. I just listed it a minute ago.
Right.
This is so important, I interrupt the SSSS. So there's the ship. And Stingray's been following it, as has Julia, assiduously. Julia, do you know where the ship is now?
Yeah, yesterday afternoon, late, it was still in the Dominican Republic.
Correct. And it has shown up in the Dominican Republic. It has docked. Then it docked out, and it stayed on a mooring on its anchor. And then it docked again. And Stingray...
Mm-hmm.
has the latest. Here is the schedule. It's in this Caucedo in the DR, and it's going to depart from there today on the 18th. You see down there in the lower left corner?
Right.
Departure for 18/2025. In fact, it should have already departed at 06:23 their time. The estimated time of arrival into, you know what PNS is? Pensacola.
Oh, yeah.
Which is exactly what Stingray's been telling me now for a week, that he's heard rumors that the
Right.
ship is going to Pensacola, and that indeed is what is happening. It's going by this route, according to marine traffic, from the DR, the Dominican Republic, past Haiti, past Cuba, around the west end of Cuba, and up to Pensacola on Florida's Panhandle, which, of course, is on the Gulf of America.
Right.
Right, Julia?
Yes.
Estimated time of arrival is the 23rd of April, so in 5 days, the UML Victoria is expected into Pensacola. UML stands for the shipping company, as you probably also know, Julia.
Yes.
Here is where it's headed. That is the port of Pensacola.
Ooh, look at that water. Woo.
And yeah, it's
How
really
blue. God.
what a graphic, eh?
Woo.
I actually helped that graphic, I think.
I bet you
a little
did.
bit. But what else is in Pensacola, Julia?
Flight school.
Well, yeah, the naval flight, one of the Navy flight schools, big Navy Air Base there, Able 80, but also the American Magic, the new base, is being planned for. It's not built, it's in the process. We talked about that in the last week or so.
Right.
In what will be part of the Maritime Center of Excellence and American Magic's base in Pensacola. It's an architect firm called SMP Architecture. And we have sussed all this out in the last, really just this morning, thanks to Stingray and thanks to Tom Pace, the Commodore once or twice removed of Pensacola Yacht Club in our FOSI. The proposed adaptive reuse and expansion to the existing Warehouse 10 building at the Port of Pensacola will house a new research, manufacturing, and training facility for the American Magic and America's Cup racing team. The project will have a significant influence and positive economic impact on Pensacola, establishing the city's reputation as not only a sailing hub that will draw national and international regattas to Pensacola's Deepwater Bay. You extra credit, do you know the name of that bay?
I don't.
Escambia.
Oh, that's a
Bay.
nice name.
We used to sail the Flying Squatini pre-midwinters on Escambia Bay in Pensacola Yacht Club. So it'll be there in Pensacola, but it'll also be a center for racing technology and research that will attract some of the world's best ship builders.
Well, that's interesting.
So what's going on is that there is some core competence there, in not only because it's been a long time hub of shipping and so on, and as I said, our Navy air what do you call that? The Naval Air Station, NAS Pensacola. And it's also American Magic's new hub, their winter, and it's a year-round training center because you obviously can sail there in the winter as well as in the summer. It gets a little hot and humid there. But I talked to Tom Pace this morning, and Terry Hutchinson and the American Magic team have been down there racing, training in various classes and boats. They were all part of that foiling week that was just held down there 3 weeks ago. And T. Hutch is doing the 52 Super Series, having done some training down there with his team. And on the website, American Magic website, A Vision for the Future, Terry is saying a foiling week also featured a keynote address from Terry, president of sailing operations at American Magic, who spoke about the team's mission to inspire American pride and unity in sailing, engage the next generation, and position the U.S. as a leader in foiling innovation. He also highlighted American Magic's commitment to developing the Pensacola Performance Center, the PPC, I guess it is, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to advancing high-performance sailing and technology in the U.S. of A.
That'll be a great boost.
And also talking with Commodore Pace, Tom Pace, this morning, apparently American Magic is in some temporary facilities in a big warehouse, another warehouse in the port, and they are more than capable of doing carbonology, carbon type analysis and repairs to who knows what kinds of boats might be there.
Yes.
Now, do you think that American Magic might somehow also be getting involved in Sail GP, Julia?
Well,
beyond just helping to repair wings and maybe cross beams and so on.
Yes, that sounds like it could well happen, but not just Sail GP, other people, because that's be a great facility for.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So we shall see. So that's what T. Hutch said. That photo from Martino Orsini from back during that foiling week a couple weeks ago. The next Sail GP event is coming up in New York City, so they want to get these boats there in 5 days, get them repaired. Do they have time then to get them up to New York City? Yes, because that event, of course, is not for a few more weeks. Here is the promo video for New York's Sail GP event.
Moving original. Straight from the underground. Hold on.
Oh, here we go. Here in New York City. This is going to be tight.
And that's going to be tight, too, because it's June 7th and 8th, Julia.
Yes.
So they don't have a lot of time to get these boats repaired, then get them back on a ship and get them. Maybe they'll ship them by road up to New York. You know, they could hire trucks, but there's a bunch of containers. There's 70, 80, 90 containers. There's something like that that they're moving around for Sail GP events. The teams, the television, the adrenaline lounge stuff, the buoys, the race committee gear. So it's a lot of stuff. So let's see. Questions here coming fast and furious. Yeah, Aztec Blue Water, appropriately, Gordon Smith is saying. Baton Rouge, who's in Charleston, knows a lot about what goes on in that corner of the country. I think it is also a big deal that the TP-52s were in Pensacola also. Yes, some of them. Jeff Kalustian will be in Pensacola in 2 weeks. J. Frederick Bland, naval aviators, never pilots or drivers. Thank you, J. Frederick Bland, for that correction. Naval aviators. Rick Banner is saying, I can hear the Alpenhorns now. Piccola. Let's not. No, 100%. What does that mean, Mark Orton Reed? Do you really think Larry Ellison is going to give up overall control to independent syndicates? Greg Norman is asking the head of Inside Great Lakes Sailing, who's doing his usual good already into the new season. He's done a report. He interviewed Charlie Enright here earlier this week. I commend it to you. Go to his YouTube channel, Inside Great Lakes Sailing. Steve Gruber says truck would be way faster than ship, especially if the containers are already on the hard. Yes.
Yes.
Presumably they will be offloading them off the ship and onto the hard in Pensacola and getting them in one of those warehouses for work. We shall see. Jonathan Shore. Hello, Jonathan. Quantum New York Yacht Club American Magic is building a new TP52 in Pensacola right now. I think they're building a Maxi as well. So what do you think of that?
Wow, that's good.
Thanks, Jonathan. That means they're keeping their American Magic shipbuilders, boat builders busy. The boat builders busy. There's some alliteration on other projects in hopes that they might be re-engaged for the America's Cup down the road. Good, smart thought. Okay, I don't know about merging those two. I still think it's a good idea. I don't know that Larry and Russell would ever give that up. I don't think Grant Dalton, as long as he's in charge, which maybe isn't going to be that much longer, we shall see. He's got a mess on his hand, but we'll talk about that. But that is, Julia, our first SSSS.
Well, it's really good because he always has good info.
Stingray, Sleepless in Seattle Sleuthing. Do you like the theme music?
I do.
Do you know what that's from?
Yes.
What's it from? For extra credit.
The Casablanca.
Yeah, and what else? Where else was that music featured? The movie called Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, I forgot that music was there.
That was there. That's why I chose it. The Pensacola Airport call letters, yes, are PNS. As time goes by, and from the movies, Clay Embley is saying. Okay, Stingray, thank you for your first SSSS. He may even, talking with him this morning, he may even reveal his face. He's in Witness Protection Program, as you know.
Yes.
And it's our Sailing Illustrated Witness Protection. It's actually the Sailing Anarchy Forum Witness Protection Program. He doesn't want anybody to know what he looks like or where he lives.
Right.
And Mark Holland says, great SSSS, and I'm so glad Stingray doesn't lisp. Mark, we're going to get Mark on we got a lot of people coming up. Mark's coming up with a compendium, and we've got Shane Couch coming up with his. We got the guy with the book.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right, Winning Ways.
Jonathan Weston, and I got that right there on the back shelf. Good book. And he's posting nice things about him coming on the show. He's enthusiastic about it.
Oh, great.
Thank you, Stingray. A little Fozy focus here. And that, of course, is about cool people, friends of Sailing Illustrated. And speaking of Shane Couch, I have a report from just an hour or so ago from Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, who was a little...
taken aback?
tight of neck and throat and had a cold coming on.
Oh.
He raced today, his boat, he's got his 38-footer or 40-footer, whatever it is, in an RORC. It's I guess a 3-day Easter weekend regatta down in Cowes, the Isle of Wight, and it was really windy and rough and cold today.
Oh.
He had Shane Couch on the boat with him as crew. And again, it was really windy, bouncy, and rough, the tide against the wind, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And Shane got tossed overboard.
No.
And luckily, Shane Couch was rescued by a rib that came by. In fact, it was none other than Ian Walker who came by and picked him up, or so Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin told me. Shane's fine. He's lived to talk about it.
And
but
how's Andrew?
Andrew he was cold and he was going to dinner at the club, so he can't be in too bad a shape. But I said, sound like you need a hot toddy when I was talking with him. So, okay, all things, it ends well. So,
that's scary.
But that was scary for a few moments today during that race. It looks like it's going to be windy and rough again tomorrow, or so Mr. Doctor said to me on the phone earlier actually just about an hour before we went to air. Now, one other Easter weekend event, since we're talking about Easter and the Holy Week and so on. I just love this video, and I didn't know whether to put it here in Fozy Focus or put it at the end of the show, but I thought it was so cool to see we should put it here in the A block. This is from Coach John Rogers down at San Diego Yacht Club from yesterday. He had the kids over at Kellogg Beach, which is a beach just to the south of San Diego Yacht Club there in the little San Diego Yacht Club Basin, the Shelter Island Basin. And the kids go over there, they do an Easter egg hunt, and then they sail back to the club. Light air, flat water, and just a video that warms the cockles of your heart.
Yes.
Sabbats.
I was going to say
8, 9-year-olds, beginner and intermediate Sabbat, just did their Easter egg hunt at Kellogg's Beach. It's classic. They have wind, but total glass. Rough life we got.
Yeah.
A rough life on Easter weekend, and bravo to John Rogers, and he's the head coach at, and more than that, I can't remember his exact title, at San Diego Yacht Club. Fantastic stuff. The kids, 9-year-olds,
yes,
go have an Easter egg hunt on Kellogg's Beach, which is a bit of a deal in San Diego because it's one of the over on Coronado Island by the Hotel del Coronado. They've got that huge, beautiful beach all the way down the Strand, all the way to La Playa, but. This is called La Playa Cove here in San Diego, and Point Loma up behind it. The yacht club, you saw it when John panned his camera around, and it's a great place for a junior sailing program and more, especially on an Easter weekend for an Easter egg hunt. Thanks, John, for that video. Julia?
Sir.
What are we celebrating today?
The earthquake in San Francisco.
Does that look like an earthquake? Does that look like an earthquake photo?
I'm not celebrating that.
What does it look like?
I know what it is. It's marbles, but it looks
exactly. It's World Marbles Day, and that's why I said, "Are we out of our? Are we losing our marbles?"
Right.
It is World Marbles Day, and it goes back to 1588. I had no idea. With a marbles tournament in Tinsley Green in England. Have you been there?
No.
2 suitors competed in marbles to win the hand of a milk maiden, according to Days of the Year, this website I get some of this stuff off of, starting a tradition that continues today. And only the British would have something called the British Marbles Board of Control. Now organizes the annual event known as the British and World Marbles Championship. Participants from around the globe, including the U.S., Australia, and Japan, join the competition. And you'd think poorly of me if I did not have a video about today, World Marbles Day. Julia?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad.
Hey there, marble enthusiasts. Did you know that World Marbles Day is just around the corner on April 18th, 2025? Let's dive into the fascinating world of marbles, a game with a rich 5,000-year-old history. Marbles have been discovered in ancient Egyptian tombs, and even Roman children played with them. These tiny, colorful spheres have been captivating hearts for millennia. Whether you're rolling them on the playground or displaying them in a collector's case, marbles have a universal appeal that's impossible to deny. Today, marbles aren't just child's play. Enthusiasts around the globe collect and trade marbles, seeking out rare and unique pieces with fervor. Vintage marbles, handcrafted beauties, and even modern artist-made marbles are all highly prized. But it's not just about collecting. Marbles have evolved into a competitive sport with worldwide tournaments. That's right, marbles competitions attract players of all ages, showcasing their skills in precision and strategy. And here's some exciting news. The newly formed International Marbles Federation is on a mission to get marbles recognized as an accredited and sanctioned sport. Imagine the thrill of marbles being featured in international sporting events. So on April 18th, let's celebrate World Marbles Day. Honor this ancient game and look forward to its bright future. Whether you're a collector, a player, or just a fan, there's never been a better time to appreciate the timeless joy of marbles. Thanks for joining me on this marble out journey.
What are we going to have, marbles in the Olympics next? Is John Emmett going to be a marbles coach?
Yeah.
I mean, what is going on with us, Julia?
I don't know.
An international federation? And before you know it, it'll be in the blood. Did you play marbles as a kid?
I did. And about the same time I was playing jacks.
Oh, jacks, marbles, jacks. Yes, that was before we had phones and iPads and screens
And we had a stick with a.
Yes, you drew
make a circle.
I drew a circle.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're celebrating today. And as always, we're also celebrating those of you who support us via Patreon or otherwise, just by coming on the show, by leaving comments, and so on and so forth. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. We're deeply appreciative to all of you who help keep our studio, help keep our streaming fees, to pay another streaming fee today. And with Skype going, and Skype was free, and I've been using Skype for our virtual guests, for our guests coming on the show, because technically it's better than Zoom, unless I pay a lot more money for a higher tech Zoom, which I am contemplating doing.
We'll have to see what the options are.
Well, I'm exploring all the options. John Emmett, I wasn't very good at marbles. I don't want to risk losing them. Well, so you'll ask, did I come up with today's show theme before or after I realized it was World Marbles Day?
After.
No, I didn't. Okay, I did the show. I was saying, are we losing our marbles before I realized
did
it?
you?
Yeah, honest to
I'm
God.
proud of you.
Before it was World Marbles Day. So,
prescient.
Claire Harrington, I'm glad you see she's on here now. As what did Magnus call her? The irrepressible or the incredible Claire Harrington? Marbles Illustrated for the moment, not the quirkiest of British traditions, but a good one, Yarby is saying.
Yeah.
Gordon Smith thinks the Greeks used to be good at it. Check out the British Museum. Can we use teams? Yes, we must have team marbling. Of course, John Emmett.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good test. I answered every one bigly. I don't know what that means. I think back on this whole thing with Skype and Zoom, we will figure something out because obviously we're going to have virtual guests. And Zoom, to get high quality 1080p Zoom, and by the way, Emmett and I are talking about going 4K with this show. Right now we're streaming 1080p, 30 frames a second.
What's the advantage of doing that?
Well,
because
it preserves if you record them in 4K, you have them in posterity in 4K. You may not stream. We may record them in 4K and then only occasionally stream them in 4K, but they look. You can tell the difference, even though the human eye, just looking at a good monitor, is hard pressed to tell the difference between 4K and 1080p.
I mean, they take up a lot more space, though, too.
But they take up a lot more space, and it will test everybody's computers. But we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know who Vivian Lizke is, but we're going to block her, Julia. 4L would future-proof us. Better is better. Yeah, 4K, I think he means. Brilliant. The brilliant Claire Harrington. I was going to say, Julia, about the brilliant Claire Harrington.
Right.
She has just completed a flight check this morning.
Good for her.
She flew out over the Elizabeth Islands, out over Cape Cod and back. And if she's on here, that means she
got it.
It was successful. And
Congratulations.
And she didn't crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go into the politics of the British Supreme Court's ruling on trans people, and that a lot of you sent that to me, but we'll skip that one for now. Thanks for your support. Those of you who do join us via Patreon and give us a few bucks a month, send us a check, or as I turn this way, or as Clayton Embley has done. Julie, you want some bourbon cream since we're met? It is Friday. You want some bourbon cream in your coffee?
I probably need some more coffee.
More coffee? Didn't I pour you enough?
It was super good today.
Well,
Thank you.
I put some of that sugar-free sweetener in it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll go back here to...
But this is wonderful. Clayton, I think of you warmly.
You do?
Yes.
Hold that up and salute him one more time, and I'll get you on camera 3. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put Clayton's back here on the Crutonic Corner, which is... thanks to another Fozy, to Pedro Foiling Sailor, Peter Stevenson. The Crutonic Corner, Julia.
Yes.
It's pretty used up.
It is.
Let's see, it's getting. John Emmett said, I always record in 4K anyway. Facebook normally sets viewing resolution based on internet speed. Yes. What were their other comments? We're already to 100. No need to gild the lily on the resolution, in my opinion. The marginal benefit might not outweigh the marginal cost. Yeah, true. And I've resisted it so far. In fact, I've resisted even Andrew Pindar. I've resisted streaming at 60 frames. We did stream at 60 frames for a while.
Yeah.
But it's not like we're doing a live sports event. This is talking head video, so I don't think we need to stream and look like a soap opera at 60 frames a second.
No.
Do we?
No.
Clay Embley says it's nice to know that we are thinking of him.
Indeed.
And Blake Middleton continues to help us via Patreon every month. And Blake, we certainly appreciate it, as we do all of you who
Absolutely.
help us out. And welcome again to show number 826 on this Good Friday, the 18th of April. And Julia, first time in a long time that the Orthodox Good Friday and the Christian, the East and the West, are on the same day, and Easter, both Easters are on the same day. So it's a bit of a weekend.
Yeah.
Do you know what the Orthodox Church calls this day? Not Good Friday.
No.
They call it Great Friday. How do I know that? Because I got a bunch of Greek friends, and maybe more. We're going to have more Greek friends if that's where the next America's Cup's going to be.
Yes.
Who knows? Who knows if there's going to be a next America's Cup? It's becoming so croutonic, Julia.
Oh, I know.
John Emmett is never croutonic. He's always got an upbeat and uplifting report in the Coach's Corner. Super Fuzzy John Emmett from GBR, and here is his report from the Castle Cove Sailing Club today.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fosey. So I'm here at Castle Cove Sailing Club, and it's actually the first week of racing. So I think after all the recent stuff that's going on in the world, it's just fantastic to be on the water. We've actually talked about it before, that sailing, and of course I'm a bit biased here, but it's very good for your mental health. One of the studies has actually shown that exercise can be better than medication for depression. And here you've got beautiful scenery, water, and a really important thing is the social aspect of sailing. So comments are always welcome, and it would be great if people can share now so people can join in and comment while the show's live. One of the things is time moves on, and sailing as a sport, we need to adapt. I was chatting to people recently about Wheelwood Sailing Club, and it's really sad when we lose any sailing facility or any sailing event, because it's much harder to bring it back, and that's why we need to protect our sailing clubs. And as human beings, we need to think about growing and improving and expanding the sport. I was looking at my van parked down there in the boat park, and it's actually getting to that age I probably need to think about replacing it. It was new for the 2012 Olympic Games, but as time goes on, engines, bodies only wear out. And that's the difference between a machine and an athlete. If you ask an athlete to do a job and it's just beyond their capability, if you ask them to lift 100 kilos and they can only lift 90, if they keep on trying, eventually they'll get stronger and stronger until they're able to do the job. Whereas a machine, if you have a 100 horsepower machine and you ask it to do 110 horsepower's work, you're going to break it. But everything has a competitive life, and that's why we see young people at the Olympics, and that's why it's probably a good idea for me to replace my van before it has some problems. So what we need to think about is trying to create a robust sport. Health, fitness are really important for everybody, but actually it's the grassroots of sailing which is going to dictate not only where the elite sailors come from, but also the number of people to participate in our sport for the next 20 years. So on that note, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.
And have fun. Julia, you're going to say?
Yeah, John agrees with Michael Tiemann, who just said the sport isn't losing its marbles. The powers that be, who run the top 5% of our sport, seem to be. Local level sailing still seems pretty fun and full of life.
I agree, and we're going to wrap the show up on that note. I've actually started out, and that's why I asked it as a question, are we losing our marbles?
Yep.
And we spend way too much time probably talking about international high-end sailing rather than the stuff that's really important, like parasailing. And John, we always end his report these days with this pitch. We want to get parasailing reinstated for Brisbane 2032, not as a regular parasailing or a Paralympic sport, but we're going to get it, we hope, And all you Aussies need to work on the organizing committee in Brisbane and push to get parasailing back in as a demonstration event for the 2032 Olympics in Brisbane, please. What else here? Sound advice, John, from Ted Ryman. Yeah, I think sailing has lent to your mental health, Julia, to my mental health.
Absolutely.
All along.
Absolutely.
And as I've said before, I don't want to overstate this on a Good Friday or a holy weekend or holy week. But for a lot of us, in addition to whatever church, synagogue, temple, whatever we may go to, in a lot of ways, the yacht club is our community center, our church in some respects, where we go and maybe not celebrate. Well, we celebrate a lot of things.
Oh, yes.
Including camaraderie, but spirituality and a lot of things. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest things, at least at St. Francis Yacht Club, is when somebody passes away and they have an 8-bell ceremony and then a big celebration of life. And those things are hugely supported.
Yes.
Because they're our friends and family.
Yes.
At our clubs.
Absolutely.
And it's why U.S. Sailing needs to celebrate clubs and classes, because look, the J. Frederick Bland and others who are heavily involved in the ILCA class like John is, the classes too are lifelong friendships, in some ways replace churches in maybe 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gordon Smith says perhaps the objective should be that sailing is as diverse as possible at the grassroots. Everything else will follow from that. Good point. Does somebody put David Graham's email address back in the chat? Because I skipped over that too fast, but I don't want to go back in the slides. It was just from memory. It was David.Graham, Graham @sailing.org. I think it is World Sailing's URL. Get parasailing back in the Olympics, please. One other note before we leave the UK, and that is that according to the BBC, and thanks to several of the FOSI who sent me this story, 15 sailors, young sailors, were rescued after boats capsized during a race in Wales. And what was that event? Well, it was the RYA's National Youth Championship. 15 people have been rescued after several small sailing boats capsized while out racing off the Gwynedd coast. I got coaching on how to pronounce these Welsh words. A Coast Guard helicopter and rescue teams from, I got to look at my notes, Cricket and Abersoch. Andrew McIrvin helped me with those, and I also checked online. Abersoch were called to the incident off Putelli. Julia, that's Putelli.
Wow.
At about 14:15 BST on Wednesday. And as I said, it was the RYA's Youth National Championships were taking place. And one of the vessels, apparently when this report was filed yesterday, had not been located. But thank God, all of the sailors were rescued. All the boats, I believe, have since been located. They washed up on the shoreline, but they have a hell of a storm and not enough boats, apparently. The Putelli RNLI said it was involved in the rescue after the event's designated rescue boats, quote, became overwhelmed by the number of young sailors requiring assistance.
Gosh, that was awful weather. Do we know what kind of awful weather
I don't. I just have this BBC report, but it must have been pretty bad for this to happen.
Yes, absolutely.
The Princess Royal was there. Princess Anne was attending the event to celebrate 150 years of the Royal Yachting Association.
Wow.
And a Cricket Coast Guard rescue team spokesman said, quote, in the end, all were accounted for, but we're very cold and wet. One injury was sustained, and we do wish her a speedy recovery. So thank goodness nobody was seriously hurt and no one was lost. So proud of the RNLI. Yarvahe is saying, and Neil Collingridge, there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. Lots of lessons to be learnt, I suspect. Mm-hmm. Andrew Pendar raising a glass or two of eggnog to St. Brendan. Yes, this Easter weekend. And Julia, I'm pleased to report that John Emmett has promised to do a follow-up on this story for us next Tuesday.
Oh, good.
He's one of the Brits that sent us that BBC report and knew about it, of course, as did any number of the others, Ted Ryman, I believe, and some others. So John's going to do a report and update us. And as Neil Collingridge is saying, that sounds like there is more to the story. When something like this happens, there usually is.
Right.
Julia, what happened on this day in history? the 18th of April, 1906. You knew. And you didn't see the slides.
No.
You didn't see the slides, but here they are. Look at this. I'd never seen this photo.
Oh, yeah.
This is on Sacramento Street here in San Francisco, looking toward the bay. Sacramento is one of the long parallel streets like California, and tell me what else, Julia, that go from the west to the east. So this is looking east toward the bay. And look at these people. This is later in the morning. It's already happened, and the city's caught fire. The quake, of course, it is the great earthquake of 1906. Look at the people on the right are over there. They've already they're watching the fire, which is about to consume the city.
Yeah.
And here they are, just sitting there watching it. These ladies, the ladies are over here. The gentlemen, it looks like, are over there, and they're just all in a little coffee clutch there. And what's going to happen next? Looking down Sacramento Street, that is a photo from the Library of Congress. A gentleman named Arnold Genthy took that photo, and I found it online. He reports that I found that my hand cameras had been so damaged by the falling plaster, apparently in his own home or his shop, as to be rendered useless. I went to Montgomery Street to the shop of George Kahn, my dealer, and asked him to lend me a camera. Quote, take anything you want. This place is going to burn up anyway.
Oh, my.
I selected the best small camera, a 3A Kodak Special. I stuffed my pockets with films and started out. Of the pictures I had made during the fire, there are several, I believe, that will be of lasting interest, to put it. There's the understatement of the week.
Oh, yes.
Or of the century, maybe. There is particularly the one scene that I recorded the morning of the first day of the fire along the aforementioned Sacramento Street, looking toward the bay, which shows in a pictorially effective composition the results of the earthquake, the beginning of the fire, and the attitude of the people. On the right is a house, the front of which has collapsed into the street. The occupants are sitting on chairs, calmly watching the approaching fire. Groups of people are standing in the street, motionless, gazing at the clouds of smoke. When the fire crept up close, they would just move back a block.
Up a block.
Well, up but back.
Yeah.
They wouldn't move toward the fire. They'd move back a block.
Right.
It is hard to believe that such a scene actually occurred in the way the photograph represents it, but that it did. This day in history, 18 April 1906. And Julia, I hope I haven't jinxed us, because we talked about the 1989 quake on the show on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I have not woken up in a cold sweat, but I have thought several times, wouldn't it be poetic justice if you and I were sitting here and all of a sudden the studio started to swing like it did for that baseball telecast in the live telecast of the World Series in 1989. And we're sitting here live and we go viral because of the quake.
Yes.
The lights are falling on our heads. The monitors are caving in. Let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. Mark Holland says at FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, we used to see that behavior all the time. People don't change. Devastating. Has the orange, I'm not going to say defunded the monitoring of plate tectonics? No, of course not. Massive disaster, and they all have their fancy hats on, Mark Holland.
Well, you wouldn't go out without your hat on.
Well, of course not. You might get a suntan, which was very unfashionable.
It is.
In those days. Yes. Until about the 30s, right? Coco Chanel made suntanning fabulous, didn't she?
And that represented one's life in the summer on the
Riviera.
On the Riviera. Right.
The easy life, the retired life, the semi-retired life, the rich life. Well, we work really hard to make our cameras make us look good on camera, and in our case, it's hard. At least in my case, Julia.
Well, both of us.
Combination of tuning the cameras up and increasing the saturation a little bit, and changing the color of the lights, and putting makeup on for television so that we don't look like, at least I don't look like Casper the Ghost. Enough of that. Let's hope there's no earthquake anytime soon, Julia, or if there is, we live to talk about it.
There was quite a bit of talk about it this morning on television, and one of the things it was talking about, of course, was that the resiliency of the city of San Francisco over the years.
Well, and we're going through a rough patch now, but it's getting better.
Yes, absolutely.
Crime is down. Homelessness is down.
Yes.
Shooting drugs on the street. The new mayor is cleaning things up,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
We're pleased to report.
We're pleased to report.
Knock on wood, may it continue.
Yes.
What else? Okay, they're getting political there. Blake Middleton. He remembers the 89 quake, 1989. He was actually on Redwood Creek down in the South Bay during a Stanford practice. He was your coach then, Julia, for your team.
Yeah.
Shall we get to the America's Cup? I know a lot of people came on today to see what else we might have to say about this putrid protocol of Mr. Dalton's. And I'll probably get, strong messages from some of you who don't like me picking on Mr. Dalton, but I'm not picking on him. I'm telling you, this is bad. What is going on here in the Cup, and this AC38 Cup date is bad. It was presaged, if that's a word, Julia, by Richard Gladwell's article of almost 9 days ago, almost 10 days ago. Radical changes touted, he said, for future America's Cups. Will they get traction this time? That was Gladwell's article. We covered that article at the time. We've talked about it. We've been hearing rumors about what this consortium, Richard quoted me from 20 years ago, arguing for some of these things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, there is the protocol and there is the deed of gift. And these radical changes that some people would like to promote, in fact, are promoting, under the deed of gift are not possible, and that won't happen, in my opinion, humble opinion. Now, if you want to know more about the deed of gift and related documents from the last Cup and before, our Fozy Stephen Suchia, who's from Ohio, he's a member, in fact, he's chairman of the America's Cup Hall of Fame selection committee. They've just released their 3 names, and we'll talk about that. In fact, Hamish Ross is going to come on. He's on that committee as well. And it's very interesting. Well, it's K-Art is one of them. Mm-hmm. And we won't go into the rest of the 3, but we're going to have a discussion about the America's Cup Hall of Fame, the induction of which is in October. So we got a few months to talk about that. But in the meantime, if you want to know more about the America's Cup deed, Stephen has pulled it all together in this book, coffee table style book, the America's Cup Deed of Gift. But suffice to say, that is the deed that when the New Yorkers came back from Cowes in 1851, it took them 6 years to kind of pull it together. And they then, after machinations we've talked about on here, and I won't bore you with now, they wrote out a deed of gift, rewrote it, and then finally gave it to New York Yacht Club, that is the trophy, and deeded it to New York as a friendly competition between foreign countries with certain stipulations which are in that deed of gift, some of which can be amended by mutual consent, like the number of races, like the length of the courses, and et cetera. But some of which is bulletproof, some of which cannot be changed, is cast in stone, like it shall be in yachts propelled by sails only, and the yacht shall be constructed in the country of the club they represent, on and on and on. And I ranted about this at some length on Tuesday. Go back and watch that show if you want to see the specifics of the protocol, which are so utterly croutonic. This is the protocol from the 37th, the Cup just completed in Barcelona last year, between the Defender, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, and the Challenger of Record, the Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, which is a separate company, but nobody's complained about it, so I'm not going to either. But the Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, dated 2021, and that codifies the rules and regulations, commercial regulations, a lot of stuff. The class rule is separate, governing that edition, the 37th edition, through which we have just been. Mm-hmm. And it's called the protocol because that's what I called it when I wrote the first protocol back leading up to the 92 America's Cup. I've said that on this show before.
And everything else was just freehand interpretation?
No, good question. What used to happen was that prior to the match being completed, this in the 70s, and even in 83, before New York lost the Cup in 83, they published a document called the Memorandum. Mm-hmm. As simple as that. We talked about that on Tuesday. And the memorandum said, if we successfully defend, it is our intention to defend the cup in such and such a time and such such a boats, yada, yada. And it laid out. So immediately the event was over, people knew, because a lot of people came to the event to kick the tires to see whether they wanted to buy an old boat and take it home and use it to train in and figure out how to design their own boat and build it in their own country, yada, yada. New York was a perfectly reasonable trustee, very good trustee, in fact. And yeah, some people argued that they did things that, and they did some things that tipped the balance of the scales in their favor, as all defenders do. But nothing like has been done in this latest edition of the protocol, which was sent to me Tuesday morning. And as it turns out, I think it was sent to one or two other journalists. I'm not going to say who, but I am sent this document by email, and it's a long document. And as you can see here, it is revision marked. That's, it's redlined. It's revision marked, the changes that are made. So it's really easy to go through it and see the changes that ostensibly the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is proposing to their ongoing Challenger record, the Royal Yacht Squadron. Whether the Royal Yacht Squadron has even seen much of this, I don't know. If they have and they've agreed to it, then shame on you, Royal Yacht Squadron. But the bulk of the shame lies with the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, who have allowed Grant Dalton to promulgate this. And Grant Dalton's rules advisor, who is Russell Green, who is a longtime friend of mine, former America's Cup colleague, even a protege. I helped bring him into umpiring and judging and so on 20 plus years ago. This club is now cemented their reputation as the worst trustee in the history of the America's Cup, or so say I. They have completely blown it. Not only did they not insist that the event be held in New Zealand where it belongs, and they could have insisted that, they have also delegated their trustee authority, which is both their authority and their responsibility, their trustee duties, which is illegal under New York law. You cannot, a trustee of a charitable sporting trust cannot delegate their authority and responsibility. They can delegate some of the operational details to an organizing committee, to a race committee, tell me who. But you can't let somebody else make all the decisions. And that's what they've done. They've delegated it to the team, ETNZ, in the person of Grant Dalton and his scribe and drafter, and frankly, I won't say in crime, but a partner in crime, Russell Green. There, I said it, because Russell's been drafting this stuff. And I've drafted protocols, I've negotiated protocols, so I know it's a tough effort. I know what goes on, and you always try to get a little more stuff in your favor. But you never, ever go against the deed of gift. You can't, you shouldn't, and they're going to now get caught out, because this is an abomination, as I said on Tuesday's show. It's so bad that it has resulted in a lingy. I can tell you with certainty. I wouldn't stake my life on it, but I bet the house on it. I have a very solid one here, is that they're done, that the people that they had on retainer to keep going forward for AC38 have been let go. People who they had on a string saying, hey, stand by, we want to hire you, and in due course we will hire you. They've told those people, sorry, we're not going to do this. And I understand they're having a fire sale on their AC37 assets. So I think New York Yacht Club is taking this all in. I don't know for sure. Every time I ask Claire, she says, sorry, can't tell you. Anytime I talk to anyone else in American Magic or New York Yacht Club, they are tight-lipped, but I know they're not amused. In fact, the whole sailing world is not amused. And as several of you said, who gives a flying leap, because the rest of the sport is just fine. But as far as the America's Cup is concerned, doing it in Greece, which is what I'm told by one of you watching who's a senior serious person, is the next best option. Greece? They've never had an America's Cup team. They had a team that sailed a little bit in one of the preliminary regattas, didn't pay their bills, fell out of bed, never made it to the Challenger Selection Series, let alone the match. Greece, KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What I'm hearing is that the Italians, Luna Rossa, are kind of stepping back from all this and saying, well, you know what? We could host it in Cagliari, which is where their team base is down in the southern tip of Sardinia. So Grant, come on down here, Grant Dalton. We'll host the event. If it's just the two of us, fine. If the French come, fine. If somebody else comes, New York or whomever, get it together to come under this horrible protocol, we'll see. And you're all going to ask, well, what about the Royal Yacht Squadron? I'll tell you the latest on them as well. It's a mess. We have anybody involved in the Cup is sitting there with their, even I've got to believe Grant, who's not stupid. The guy's a smart guy, and he's won the Cup 3 times in a row, and he's tough as nails, but he's got to be thinking, I messed this up big time. As Harry Anderson, the late great Commodore, whom you know, Julia,
yes,
Commodore of New York Yacht Club, many times now removed, was my predecessor, or I was his successor. He was my predecessor as executive director of U.S. Sailing. So I learned at his knee in many ways. And Harry Anderson, as he was fond of saying when something like, because he was so polite,
yes,
so genteel, he'd say,
old school, true.
And old school, he'd say, this is screwed up to a fare thee well.
Yes.
And this Cup is screwed up to a fare thee well. Now, what about the Royal Yacht Squadron? I hear that the stories have, the journalists who know, including, I haven't written stories because I don't. I go live on television, on YouTube and Facebook. I hear that this is the Isle of Wight. Some of you saw it on the cover photo of my Facebook the other day. That's where the Royal Yacht Squadron is located. You all know this is the mainland. This is looking south. That's the Solent. That's the Channel. And, right over here is Cowes. And it's a mess in the Royal Yacht Squadron. It is an absolute horrible mess. And the Royal Yacht Squadron have been a terrible challenger of record because they've basically gone along with just about anything Mr. Dalton wanted to do. Yeah, they tried to argue at different times, so one hears, but they've been weak as piss. Sorry to say it. Mm-hmm. They too have been really bad. I understand that the chairman of the RYS Limited, which is the ostensible challenger of record, Bertie Bickle, who's a very nice guy, very genteel guy, is about to become the next Commodore of the Royal Yacht Squadron. I don't know if their nominating committee have met officially and done all that, but that's what one hears. But I hear the Royal Yacht Squadron, are so concerned about the situation now that they've told Sir Ben Ainslie, sorry, if you don't come together with a credible sponsor and money by, I don't know if it's June 1st or June 30th, but sometime in the next couple months, we are going to pull our Challenger of Record challenge. And if that happens, then the whole thing is going to go ass over tea kettle, frankly. It already has. And why is that? Well, because the squadron does not want to be sitting here with no team. That's a huge embarrassment, and it's a huge contingent liability for them, to say nothing of egg on the face. And Sir Ben, as you all know, is 13 plus million pounds in debt. And I heard again this morning from senior serious Brits, several of them, not just one, talking to and not necessarily Fosey even, but others, that Sir Ben not only has been given this deadline by the squadron, but he is hemorrhaging pounds, dollars, euros from his Sail GP team, and now he's just trying to save his Sail GP team and keep that going, which we all hope he does. We need him in Sail GP. We need him in the sport. He's the most celebrated Olympic sailor, one of the best sailors in the modern history of the sport, the history of the sport. So we don't wish him bad.
No.
But this is a mess. It's an absolute balls up, screw up of the pinnacle event in our sport. So the squadron, I don't see them. I've been saying this for weeks. I don't see how they're going to make it. Once Jim Ratcliffe, Sir James, pulled out, how were they going to have the money? Because the rest of the people in the UK are saying, well, if Ratcliffe can't pull this off, if the squadron can't pull this off, they've tried X many times now over the now many years. Why should we get involved and try to save the day? And they won't. They won't. And Mr. Dalton has now made it so untenable with this protocol and so illegal, frankly, under the deed of gift. And I won't go into, again, you go watch Tuesday's show, all the things I said that are contrary to the deed of gift, starting with the CIC rule, the constructed in country rule. and also giving himself the authority to appoint a new challenger of record. Appoint. You can't do that. So karma is a bastard. Bring back the requirement that boats have to sail to the location. Well, that was a deed amendment. They went to court and got that amended so the boats didn't have to sail, because that was back in the old days, that was okay, but it's not okay now.
Around the world.
When you're, say you're going to sail on your own bottom, a 12-meter or an IACC boat or a AC something to New Zealand, for example. It's a fuster cluck. Yes, Yarvahe, it is. And it's Mr. Dalton's disaster, his putrid protocol, and we'll no doubt have to talk about this more, but as Jody Shields is saying, who's going to grow some cojones and challenge his protocol? I don't think it has to be challenged. It's going to fall apart because the teams are just not going to cotton to it, at least not the curtain draft of it. It's the foil's fault. Well, then there's the whole issue of whether the sport is the America's Cup has just become so technologically advanced. It's expensive. A bridge too far. And yes, Julia, way too expensive. Okay, enough. That's my rant on the Cup. 2 shows in a row. I'm sorry to do it. I would love to be saying that Grant Dalton and ETNZ and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and the Royal Yacht Squadron were all doing a fabulous job, like Royal Perth did after they won it in 83, and they took it down to Perth and did a great job in 87. We did a great job in San Diego in 92 and 95. The Kiwis did a great job in Auckland in 2000 and 2003. Olingi and the Swiss SNG did a great job in Valencia, Spain in 07. Lots of challengers, lots of teams, fair rules, tough competition. That's what the Cup needs. That's what the deed of gift anticipates. And that's what has been gutted now by this latest protocol and Mr. Dalton and Mr. Green. Sorry. Next week, we can look at, the year week racing that's going on and other cool things in the sport. Let's go to SailGP. Now that we've been talking here about things that are a bit strange and whether about losing our marbles, here was the list of the first list of venues issued a couple days ago by SailGP. And strangely, Auckland is not on that. And as Richard Gladwell has done, you go back and look through the cities and the dates and how a ship and the whole circus has to progress, Julia, around the world from venue to venue. And you look at this list, and if they're not going to start before January, and I know Russell has said he didn't want to start have a season overlap the new year. So I think he's actually maybe going to run an event in November. We'll see. But, they're already running an event from 2025, I think, in November. So maybe his real intention is to start in Perth in January. You could go to Sydney in February. If you're going to do Auckland, you could do Auckland, I would suspect, also in February, like they sort of did here, back to back between LA and San Francisco. So I think maybe they can squeeze in an Auckland between February and April, and this is just a negotiating chip that Russell is using to squeeze some pressure on Auckland to come up with better terms, because he needs money from the venues to keep the circuit going. So I suspect Auckland will get back in. I hope they do get back in, say in March or late February, early March, late February of next year. Then Rio, then Bermuda, then New York. I hear New York might actually be Newport before it's done, and I'll tell you why in a moment.
Oh, that's interesting.
Halifax, to the delight of the Canadians, is back in the list, Julia. Portsmouth, back for a second year in a row in the UK. Saint-Tropez, back, a very popular venue in September for the French. Dubai and Abu Dhabi in November to wrap the season up and then take December off for the holidays. So, why, let's see, Phil Yeomans is agreeing with me about the cretonicism of the Cup cretonicism. And Gordon Smith, on a brighter note, Tom has done a decent job pronouncing Welsh, which is non-trivial. Well, I got coaching, Gordon. You're very kind to say that, but I actually went on to one of those pronunciation websites, as I do regularly, and it's pretty easy to do, push the button and see what the speakers say. But then I checked it with Mr. Doctor Andrew McIrvin when I was on the phone with him earlier today, because he knows how to speak Welsh. You know that the joke, our It's Okay Sailing team, when somebody is speaking Welsh, that is a euphemism. That's what our team says when somebody's stumbled down drunk. Oh, he's just speaking Welsh. Not me.
No.
I've never been stumbled down drunk in my life. Hello, Stephen Suchia. We just were promoting your book.
Yes.
A few minutes ago. And yeah, watch it. There is Gordon doing some Welsh. I have no idea how to pronounce any of that stuff. So there was a lot of angst in Auckland about not being on the list. I suspect this is probably Russell Coots now, not Russell Green. Russell Coots has probably read has probably read President Trump's The Art of the Deal.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just putting some pressure on Auckland to sweeten the pot, the deal. But as Richard Gladwell points out, go read his article on all of this. He's written a couple. There's a lot of things going on at that time, late February, early March, in Auckland, like boat shows and other events that are already there. So it could be a bit dicey trying to squeeze that all in.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I think it could be in Newport instead of in New York? Well, we'll see how New York goes, assuming you get the boats fixed and get them up there, which we suspect they will. But Julia, Russell has also announced they're going to add 2 teams next year.
Mm-hmm.
They're at 12 now. That means they would get to 14 teams. And he says they'll now, and they've been talking about it, experimenting with it, they'll split the fleet into 2 fleets of 7. And the top 4 boats, then 2 from each flight, heat, division, will then go into that winner-take-all one race on the final match or the final race. So instead of 3 boats, it'll be 4. 2 from each flight of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who are those 7 going? Heart of the Steel, Stingray saying. So who are those 2 new teams going to be? I said, not a one hears, but reading the tea leaves, I suspect, yes, Yarvahe, I suspect that Artemis Racing and the Swedes are one because they got plenty of dough. I suspect that's one, although if not the Swedes, I suspect it'll be Austria. There's a lot of expertise. There's a lot of money. It's a great sailing nation, especially a multi-hull sailing nation. So it could be the Austrians. I think you're right, Yar. It'll be the Swedes, but we shall see. I wouldn't be surprised if the struggling Swiss team is bought by Ernesto Bertarelli. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that would also be, the Sail GP is going from strength to strength.
Yes.
While the America's Cup's going down the gurgler.
Yeah.
Sail GP continues on the upswing big time.
Yeah.
Who's the other team, Julia? Why do I think they could have an event next year in Newport? I know they've been out kicking, Sail GP have been out kicking the tires in Newport, talking to various entities out there. I suspect there's going to be a second American team. I suspect there will not. Yeah, I think the existing team will continue, and they're struggling. I don't think they're going to sell it. I suspect American Magic, New York Yacht Club's entity led by Doug DeVos, I suspect they're going to have a team. And they should. This gives them a training platform beyond TP52. It gives them a foiling platform. And this is where the action is. And it would not surprise me at all to see Mr. DeVos and American Magic, Terry Hutchinson, and that whole gang, Harry Melgus, on the helm of that team. 2 American teams, why not? Big country, sure, East Coast, and tell me what, South Coast teams, sort of. So I suspect that's what is in the works for Sail GP. Ed Worley's saying if New York Yacht Club owned a Sail GP team, Newport would be a great venue. Well, it'd be a great venue regardless. And I suspect, that's why I further suspect it could well end up being in Newport.
And it would draw a big crowd because they're pining for Newport.
Absolutely. It's the spiritual heart of sailing in this country.
I've never felt that, but it's because I'm a West Coaster.
Oh, it's the spiritual heart since
I know
1930 at least.
I know,
Julia.
No,
blasphemy on Good Friday out of my co-hostess. Holy cow!
All I said is I've never felt it.
Okay, for extra credit, Gordon Smith wants to know where in South America do the population speak Welsh? Really? I give. Do you know, Julia? Really? You're forgiven. Mark Hollins. Yarvaje says they speak it in Argentina. Is that right? What's the answer? What's the answer? We're waiting for you, Gordon.
Argentina, he says.
Patagonia.
That could be.
That makes sense. You learn something. Oh, Peter Taylor knew it.
Yes.
Learn something new every show. I do, at least. Hope the rest of you do, too.
I didn't speak Welsh when I was in Patagonia.
But did you speak Welsh when you were in your drinking days?
Never.
Okay, I think Auckland's going to get reinserted in here. It was a fabulous venue. Look at all the people.
Yeah.
These photos, courtesy of Richard Gladwell in his article. And I just thought, because it is, we aren't losing our marbles in Sail GP. I think they're going from strength to strength. In fact, maybe the only place we're losing our marbles in this sport is in the America's Cup, because there's so much, as several of you have said, good stuff going on. Look at these fabulous photos.
Mm-hmm.
And Pete Burling, maybe he's smarter than Mr. Dalton, and he sees the handwriting on the wall that his team value of that franchise is going up. He sees that he can race X many times in a year. Race,
Yes.
14 times,
Yes.
12 times, however many events are going to be next year, and at various cities around the world. And his wife and child can go with him to lots of them and enjoy. But who wants not to be in Saint-Tropez?
Ooh.
Who wants not to be in some of these nice venues?
Yes.
Portsmouth, Auckland, Sydney, Perth.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go to Perth. That's a fabulous town. That'll be great.
Yeah.
They'll probably do it in the river. I assume they'll do it in the Swan River. There's Guillermo Bracamonte. Thanks, an emission meaning a radio cast. Thanks to mention Patagonia. Are you there, Guillermo, in Patagonia? We've mentioned places all over the world,
Yes.
including Auckland. And look at this, just to wrap that up, fabulous shot of the Sky Tower in Auckland. And two great cups there. And as I mentioned a moment ago, in 2000 and 2003, the world is, the teams are, the yacht clubs are capable of running great events if you let them.
Yes.
And as Richard Gladwell said to me earlier today, he said, all you have to do is let the entry fee, which the entry fee, and I didn't say this, I don't think, on Tuesday, it's not $2.5 million per team just to enter the cup. After the defender's already getting the venue fee and all this other stuff. Plus, there's some other add-on fees, but there have always been a few add-on fees for, I won't bore you with the details. But, you can charge an entry fee like you can, as Richard was saying to me earlier today in a text, for a normal regatta. Just charge an entry fee and use that money to run the event. It should not cost $100 million to run an America's Cup event. It's only a regatta for a couple weeks. Call it a month. And let the challengers run their own challenger selection series, which is the way it used to be done.
Yes.
Easy peasy.
Yep.
Ray Schuler. Hello, Ray. It looks like the Americans may be the only challenger. I don't think so. I don't think New York Yacht Club's going to throw their hat in the ring. I think it might be the Italians and maybe the French. Maybe the French will end up as the challenger record. Wouldn't that be a bloody mess? A great time for them to force a D to gift challenge in real boats again. It is what they are good at. Somebody has to right the ship again. Good point, Ray Schuler. Ed Worley, the interesting aspect of Sail GP is that with a one design concept, sailors can focus on sailing and not spending millions of the technology rabbit holes of the AC. Indeed. The bang for the buck, as Jody Shields is saying, he's made a little poem here, has now fudged the cup. Auckland, perfect venue for AC 38. It still is. Mr. Dalton ought to be forced out by the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Gillian Williams, for whatever problems she had with her board or personal problems, I don't know, but she ought to, she's gone now, so their new Commodore ought to right the ship. They ought to do the next event in Auckland. And I think a lot of teams would go there. They should cost cut. They should change the boat and write a decent protocol. Make New York Yacht Club the challenger of record. Back to the future. Huh, Julia?
Yep.
New York Yacht Club. Does New Zealand have a Sail GP owner? Yes, they do. That team, the Kiwi team, is owned not by the league. I believe that's owned by Blair Tuke and it was by Pete Burling, I believe. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Warren Shosser thinks and he's in Brisbane in Australia, by the way, normally. I think the AC is almost dead in the water. They need to get back to basics. Well, the Cup has its up and downs. It's a fabulous event. This next contemplated edition is not a fabulous event. It's an abomination. And sorry to say that, but it'll get better. It'll come back. It's gone up and down. We suffered through 88 and 2010.
It comes from people trying to improve it.
No, it comes from people trying. I'm sorry.
Change it.
No. What they're trying to do is make money. And we talked about. I'm going to repeat it now because Julia's got my hair on the back of my neck up. Alan Bond, after winning it in '83, you Aussies all know that he went back and tried to do a real estate deal, a venue deal. He got this place up on the coast up north of Perth called Yanchep Sun City, and he was going to do a big development and a yacht club, and that may have even been before Bond University, and it was going to be a new city on Australia's west coast that he was going to own and operate, including the venue for the Cup. What was that? Been the 25th Cup, I think. What was that? For the 87 or whenever Cup.
Yeah.
He wanted to do a real estate play. He was stopped by the Royal Perth Yacht Club, which is what the deed anticipates. They're the trustee. They're responsible, the defending yacht club, not the team, not the owner of the team or not the principal of the team. Dennis Conner, frankly, tried to do the same thing. He wanted to, after he won in Perth in 87, he wanted to run the next Cup in Hawaii. He trained out there. There were a lot of friends, a lot of good people, a lot of money. Come out here to Hawaii, and the Dole Pineapple crowd and a whole lot of others. We'll fund it. We'll make you rich, Dennis. Who stopped that? The San Diego Yacht Club and Malin Burnham and myself, but San Diego Yacht Club. And on and on and on. It's the club's event. The club is the defender trustee, and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron cannot delegate their authority, which they have done in their entirety to Grant Dalton. He's running away with it. Sun City, home of the Flies. Yeah, well, who knows? Unbelievable. Okay, enough. Let's carry on. We got we're an hour and 27 minutes into this show, Julia. And we have an AAAA. I'm not even sure Alistair knows. I've made up an AAAA for him. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. And he's talked to me about this because the Australian sailing has done such a good job. By the way, they do what you suggested, Julia. They do on a national basis what you suggest we should do, which is to have a yacht club of the year, a sailing club or organization, maybe class of the year. Australia does that. They celebrate their clubs, and I'm going to show you some more what they do here.
Oh, good.
Bravo Zulu to them. This is a post from a couple days ago on the Australian Sailing Facebook page. Sailing is a fun, safe, and affordable sport that welcomes everyone from all backgrounds and ages and abilities. That is so much nicer than what U.S. Sailing says, which is, we're the national governing body. Yeah. Sailing is I'm going to adopt this. Sailing is a fun, safe, and affordable sport that welcomes everyone from all backgrounds, ages, and abilities. Mm-hmm. There it is, in a sentence.
That's good.
And then in Australia, they do these Discover Sailing programs. We talked about that at Sandringham Yacht Club at the Sandy. We had that featured the other day, thanks to Chris Fury, I think. Discover Sailing programs offer a range of opportunities for you to start your sailing journey and develop your skills, experience, and confidence. You don't need to own a boat or even be a member of a sailing club to participate, ! Mm-hmm. Find out more about Discover Sailing at that URL. Mm-hmm. Why don't the national governing bodies, instead of getting together to talk about Olympic classes and this, that, and the eligibility rules and doping rules, why don't they get together and learn from each other about what does work in their country, what a given national authority does to promote the sport in their country, and let the leading presentation be from Australian Sailing. Bravo Zulu to them.
Yes.
And wait, Julia, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a video that I found on their Facebook page. And again, Alistair's been pushing me to cover this, and I'm happily doing so today. Look at this video, which you talk about a sport that hasn't lost its marbles, or at least an organization. Australian Sailing. Bravo Zulu to you. want to do that.
Yeah.
Some kid looks at that and says, wow, that looks like fun.
Does.
Some adult looks at that and says, wow, that looks like fun. I can join for, not even be a member of a sailing club, and we can do some of those things and there's potluck dinner.
Mm-hmm.
There's socialization on the grass. There's people helping, instructor this on the back of the shirt and coach that and so on. Wow, that looks like fun. Why don't all the national authorities do that, Julia?
I don't know.
Cool video. Even, Ted Ryman, I was going to say that even the music is okay. It sounds a little bit like a Beach Boys surfing safari type, da, 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 da. It's great stuff. Ed Worley, for our sport to expand, the events and the yacht club activities need to be family, fun, and at minimum cost. Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, the coup de grace. Watch this. This is from their Facebook page, Australian Sailing. And
that's great. Just there.
That's at the top of their Facebook page.
Yeah.
Not Olympians, not merch, not, stuff to buy, not books.
Yeah.
And here is the claim. Australian Sailing is the national sporting, or I like that so much better than national governing body. The National Sporting Organization, NSO. I'd never heard of that. NSO, that must be a term of art in Australia for other sports as well as sailing. The NSO for sailing and peak body, okay, top body, peak body, I get it, for recreational boating at clubs. They mention clubs in their claim.
Mm-hmm.
How fantastic is that?
Yes.
Bravo Zulu. I didn't put the Bravo Zulu slide in here, but they deserve it.
Yes.
Well done. Now compare and contrast that with what's at the top of U.S. sailings. And okay, Charlie Enright's going to fix all this, I'm sure. This is what's at the top of the U.S. sailing. Does that look like fun? That's an ad for merch for a bag with U.S. Sailing brand. That's the top of their Facebook page. And it says, the United States Sailing Association, the national governing. I don't want to be governed. I don't want to be a member of a governing body. Provides leadership, integrity, and growth for the sport. Julia, go advise these people. Help them out. No wonder the Australians are booming. No wonder Mr. President Emeritus Alistair Murray is so popular and successful around the world. And that's Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote for the day with a little help from TFE. Sailing in Oz rocks. Christiane Price has a criticism, but she can air it here, and I'm sure she can air it at one of the many forums in Australia. That may be fabulous, but we have not sent teams to the Youth World Champs. Well, you should. I agree, Christiane, and you, I'm sure, can get that message through. My local club gets older and less interested in sailing with every year. Shame on Portsmouth Sailing Club, Yarby is saying. Replying to Christiane Price, well, this is what Dawn Riley is promoting at Oak Cliff with her grassroots around the Midwest tour. Okay. Well, Yars resigned from his club, which he says has become too social. Alistair's AAAA. Thank you very much. As we get into the D block here for today's show number 826, the last leg, Julia. A fabulous painting.
Oh, yes.
And the last leg is my favorite segment because when I'm putting the show together, I know that it's about the first segment I do.
Is it?
It is, because I usually find some video that I think will be a good, coming up in the future, but a positive, upbeat video for the end of the show. So I usually find that and then carry on. Dawn Riley is in the house. Hello, Dawn. The last collab tour stop is in Annapolis next Saturday and Sunday. Great. All are invited. Great stuff she's doing. She's doing what I hope Charlie Enright and U.S. Sailing should be doing and will be doing, and I hope Dawn keeps it as well. Hamish Ross is in the house. Today in history here, 250 years ago today, a shot was heard around the world. Yes, indeed it was. One of my clubs has a vibrant young crowd. The other has an old crowd with a bar tab. Got to always have new blood. Clay Embley couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
The last leg, and we're going to, as I said at the top of the show, feature the Super Series. The 52 Super Series is getting underway in 10 days' time. Preparation and fine-tuning at an all-time high as the 52 Super Series, like SailGP, goes from strength to strength. They haven't lost their marbles. With the start of the 2025 season looming large on the horizon less than 2 weeks before the first start guns of the 52 Super Series Saint-Tropez Sailing Week, more than half of the race fleet have just completed, I had no idea, a preseason training week as teams look to reach a level of preparation never seen before in the fleet. A total of 8 teams profited from a good range of wind conditions in Valencia. They all voluntarily got together in Valencia. They had their race officer there. Maria Torrijos was there, I think, from memory. Spain based out of the Victory Challenge and King Maritime Facilities in Marine facilities, thank you, to whom the teams in the circuit extend their grateful thanks. That's a couple of the extant, the remaining team bases from 07. After initial tuning and speed testing between boats and groups of boats, 3 days of informal races were run by the 52 Super Series. Oh, there she is, race officer Maria Torrijos, fabulous race officer, Spanish lady that she is, during which the Vaqueros start line monitoring system was trialed. That's this new automated electronic starting line, so the race officer doesn't have to judge who is OCS on course side and who is not. American Magic, as you may have heard us talking in some of the comments during that segment about Pensacola, American Magic was training in Pensacola. Champions American Magic Quantum Racing, who welcomed back Terry Hutchinson as tactician this season, he was out doing the Cup last year, the AC, they sailed out of Palma, Mallorca, over a similar time period, but they've also been training on different boats in different classes and events in Pensacola, or one is reliably informed. And here's a terrific kickoff video for the Super Series.
The 5-event 2025 52 Super Series season opens in chic Saint-Tropez in the south of France. The circuit returns there after a successful first visit in 2023. And then to beautiful rugged Bayona in northwest Spain, again returning for the second time, and at stake is the Royal Cup. The circuit stays in the Atlantic for super popular Cascais in Portugal for the Rolex TP52 World Championship 2025, and usually we enjoy big winds and waves in Cascais. And then it's to Puerto Portales in Mallorca, a real home from home for the 52 Super Series, reliable sea breezes on the Bay of Palma, and great fun ashore. The big finale for the season will be in Puerto Cervo, Sardinia, where the Costa Smeralda backdrop is truly stunning and the 2025 title will be decided.
So the 52 Super Series, obviously not losing their marbles. Rolex is another sponsor, as they are with SailGP. Fabulous stuff, fabulous circuit. I did some jury work for them back in the day. Even played the guitar in the closing ceremony at the final event. I can't remember where. It's someplace down in the south of Portugal. We had a fabulous time, sailors. And it was great fun. And what a great, I mean, they're not losing their marbles. They're fantastic. The 52s are better than the AC. Look at the cruise sailing, Ed Worley is saying. What's this? Excitement in displacement sailing, Mark Holland is saying.
Yes.
And Tom Pace, thank you, Tom, for reminding me. It was the GL52 races in Pensacola that were exceptional, and American Magic and some of the other teams were there. And that's what's going to happen here. That circuit starts up. So I think in conclusion, we can say that the America's Cup's lost its marbles, not losing. That thing is, Mr. Dalton needs to go. To think that he could foist that protocol on the rest of these teams is just astonishing. And it's sheer arrogance. And it's in, it's just in follow the money. It's just too much. Is Sailing Australia? No. Is U.S. Sailing? No. They've hired a new guy, Charlie Enright. They're not losing their marbles. They're coming to their senses, Julia.
Yes.
They're coming to their senses. And SailGP is going from strength to strength. Sailing GP is getting stronger and better. They'll sort that thing out. If they skip Auckland, that's a mistake. But they'll sort that out. I have confidence in Russell that'll do that. So, for the most part, and hopefully we're not losing our marbles here, Julia, although we may be. One never knows at our age. You know what they call me now in the Sailing Anarchy forums?
No.
Stingray informed me, and I went and looked. It's the first time I've looked in Sailing Anarchy forums in a long time. So we have Magnus the Magnificent. We have Mr. Doctor.
Yeah.
We have Commodore Vedekint. Commodore Julia. I'm just Tom the Dino. I'm Dinosaur Tom. It's true. I'm happy to admit it. At least as far as the cup is concerned. Return to the basics that worked for 170 years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to a few other marble losses here. Although these are all cute and clean today, Julia.
Oh, too bad.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and since everybody paid their taxes here in the U.S. this week, this one Clayton Embley sends the IRS as a couple is there and getting audited or having to check their taxes with the Internal Revenue Service. Like the sign says, it's all...
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't know why I never thought about that before.
And you did get your here's Julia. You got your extension file successfully.
Yes, but
after our show Tuesday,
with the help of an expert.
Well, an expert at filing extensions, not a tax expert. Thank you, Clayton Embley, for that. And then for some reason this week it's all about music, Julia. Coming in from different people. Sorry, pal, this isn't base camp. It's base camp. Cute.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
That's from Ed Worley. And this is, I don't know where these all came from. Beethoven's Ninth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all drunk. The basses are tipsy. That from Rick Bannerow. And then finally, this one from the amplifier. May I offer some feedback?
That's lovely.
Huh?
That's lovely.
Huh?
Good.
That was good. Okay. See, I told you they were all clean. Thank you, Rick Bannerow, for that one just before we went to air. That one came in. Ed Worley, 52s are,
Pterodactyl Tom.
I got one more here. Tom, 6 teams did 2 regattas this time. Lots in the works for more teams' participation next year. Tom Pace is saying about the GL 52s. That's the Great Lakes version of the TP 52.
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to accumulate now on the Gulf Coast. 6 teams did 2 regattas this time. Nice. Blake, cheers, Don, extra. Yeah, Yarvahe. Was that a spinnaker? Wow, if only the America's Cup had spinnakers. Yes, those are Genikers on the TP 52s. The AC yachts were like larger 52s. We could have dozens of owners with hundreds of sailors in a worldwide circuit to build up a challenge series in an AC regatta.
Mm-hmm.
Jody Shields, is a trend developing here. Circuits that have more racing and becoming increasingly popular. How does any of this fit in the current AC world? And Clayton Embley, Thomasaurus Rex.
Yeah.
Pterodactyl Tom. Dalton, I like Ken DeVerne. Dalton has finally Billy goated himself. Who's this other crouton? We got another, we're going to block them, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the videos you shared, Tom. None of us would get to see all of these if it wasn't for you and Julia, and that's what we do here. One more joke. Did you know before water was invented, people had to carry their boats around? That's just plain.
And they did, of course.
And they did, especially in the part of the country I'm from.
Right.
Why our lake is called Portage Lake, because the Indians used to paddle their canoes up to Portage Lake and then portage their canoes over to the next river. We talked about that before. Mm-hmm. That's from Chris Fury down in Australia. Nice cartoon, Chris. Thank you very much indeed. Julia, we're to the finish line. Thank God, an hour and 45 minutes into the show. A little bit shorter than usual, but it is Good Friday after all.
Yes.
And you like to say...
Yes. This is an excellent opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Indeed.
And even if you don't choose to share, if you like, you'll be informed about what's going on.
And comments are welcome, even in replay. Thank you very much for your continued support. All of you who support us via Patreon and otherwise. Send us a check in the mail. Send us some booze like Clayton Embley does. At least Julia gets she
just
gets some
mine.
booze.
Mine.
You can send me some Marmite or Vegemite. Oh my God. Peanut butter, please. Okay. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Much appreciated for your support. All of you who do support us. Without you, we couldn't do a show, nor could we do a show without those of you who give us audio, video, and images for these shows. Julia, final thoughts as we look at this list of any thoughts?
I think we've got a lot to figure out.
Yar Vahe said he tried to share the last show. Were you on YouTube or Facebook? Yar, you're on Facebook. Just hit the little arrow button down at the bottom, and it should be good. Everybody, thank you, Julia. Thanks, everybody. We hope you have a great weekend wherever you are in the world. It's Saturday down under, and it's late Friday night in Europe, and we're just getting our Easter weekend started here in the afternoon on Good Friday in San Francisco. Have a blessed, happy, wonderful Easter. I'm not going to try to say Gordon Smith what you're saying in Welsh. And thanks to Stingray for your news segment. Thanks to everybody. As Ed Worley says, turn off the news and go sailing with friends and family. And if you can, yes, go sailing. And if you do, of course, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao. For now.
Yay.
Bye.